I'm Beck and welcome to my end of year reading plans. These are the books that I am hoping to finish by November and December before this year completely ends. I feel like I've got a lot on here, but I need to remember that it's for 2 months. Also in December, it's important to note that I'm going to be doing vlogmas, which is video diary vlogs, I guess, updates for the first 12 days of December. So that's why I'm kind of combining my to be read plans into just this video so I can then get straight into vlogmas as soon as December hits. I'll link the vlogmas playlist down below because I've participated last year and the year before, and I'm just finding I really enjoy doing it. But anyway, let's get into the book. So the first one is Make the Season Bright by Ashley Herring Blake, and this was on my October TBR, but it came out at the very end of October. I think I got the audiobook early actually, but in my mind I wasn't planning to read it until after Halloween because I can't get into the Christmas mood when I know Halloween is still happening, and this is a Christmas book, and it's about two women who are the love interests, but I think in the past they've had some checkered history, so I think it's a second chance romance. And depending on how Ashley Herring Blake pulls this off, I think I'm either going to hate it and put it down or realize I respect it and then enjoy it. We'll see how it falls. I've got that on audiobook though, and I feel like I've got a few audiobooks on this to be read list and not a lot of time to read all of them, but that's kind of standard for all of the books on this video, I guess. So I think I'm just going into panic mode because it's the end of the year. I think I talked about these next two in a book tag recently, my end of year tag, and that is Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, because Onyx Storm comes out early January, at least January 2025. So I wanted to reread these before that release. Surprisingly, I jumped on the bandwagon and enjoyed Fourth Wing. I think I gave it a 3 or a 3.5 stars. It's a fun romantasy about dragons, a magical school, and high stakes. And I enjoyed it enough that I thought I want to continue. And listening to the audiobook of this, I was getting stressed. So the tension definitely rises from book 1 to book 2, and I'm keen to see where book 3 goes. So that is my plan to reread both of these. Whether I do them physically or on audio, I'm really not sure yet. So we'll see how the chips fall, I guess, when it comes to picking these up. And then of course it would not be one of my to be read videos if I was not barking on about the Stormlight Archive, because the next book is coming out shortly, like very shortly. And I'm currently amongst my reread of Oathbringer, but I'm almost finished it. So naturally the next one in line is Rhythm of War, which is another over 1,000-page book that I need to somehow get my butt into gear and finish before the release of the next one. But anyway, that's not terrifying at all. So this one is a high fantasy series following a bunch of key characters. Thousands of years ago in the world, there was a moment in time that meant the people who were protecting the world from demons and the oncoming apocalypse hung up their cloaks and put their swords down and were like, we don't want to be tortured in purgatory again. We want to actually walk away and keep the remnants of our sanity. And so because they walked away from their duty after being tortured for thousands of years and then coming back to life to fight against the desolation, so the apocalypse, and to save humanity, they were like, I can't do this anymore, and they walked away. So since that has happened, it's been like 5,000 years, and now we've got our current characters, and something's not right in the world, like something's happening again, and characters are getting these abilities tied into the world building, and they're called Knights Radiant, so they can use the magic system in here, and they're like, this is not a normal thing that is happening, like what's going on in the world. And so we're getting closer and closer to the culmination of the consequences of those characters thousands of years ago walking away. Now our characters in present day have to somehow figure out what is going on and then maybe try and at least fix it. If they can, I don't know yet. So they're approaching that in this book, and there is an ongoing war at the moment that is really amped up in this, and I'm just nervous about where my characters are going to be. I also have only read this once, whereas the others I've read a couple of times. So this will be my first reread of Rhythm of War, and I'm quite excited about it to pick up what I might have missed on my first read through. So if you couldn't tell, I'm really looking forward to this, although the audiobook is over 40 hours long, which is insane. Then surprisingly, I've got a November release. Now, I didn't know this was coming out, but a publisher emailed me and this was on one of their catalogs, and I thought, oh, I might request this because it combines some of my favorite things. Whether I get it from the publisher or not, I don't know. So if I don't get it, I've got it on hold at my library for when it releases. I'll be like, yes, I want this please, and then it will come to me as an audiobook. So yet another audiobook. This is fine. But it's called The Blood of Hercules, right? Already mythology, which is completely up my alley. And it says that the main character is struggling to survive in a Titan-infested world where Spartans fight against the Titans, and the immortals from 12 royal families who have godlike powers and obscene wealth rule over all. Our main character is apparently a shy, stammering foster child, and she's just trying to get through school and get good grades and stuff. But I think at a certain point she has a blood test and it reveals that she's a powerful elite, and so she's forced into becoming one of them, like becoming or learning how to become a Spartan, and she's forced to attend the Spartan War Academy, and there are gods that are fighting. It's like not a safe place to be. So it takes like Greek mythology, an underdog main character who's basically an orphan who is rising into power and then joining a magical school. Like those are all of the fantasy things that really like buzz my brain. So I'm keen to try this one out. I hope it lives up to the hype that I've put it on in my head. So we'll see what happens. I think that's an early November release. Then we've got a cozy fantasy called A Pirate's Life for Tea, and that is a sequel to this lovely book. And this was just a joy to read, but it wasn't a standout book in my head. So if I have time, I'll read A Pirate's Life for Tea. I want to go out and buy the physical copy to match this edition, but I don't actually have any plans to actually go out and buy it yet. So it will either happen at the end of this year or at some point in the future. I'm not sure yet. But A Pirate's Life for Tea follows these characters as adjacent characters. So Raina and Kianth from this book are now on the hunt in the second book for dragon eggs. And to find them, they need to make a deal with the captain of this pirate ship. And the captain is trying to track down someone named Cien. And I think it follows them capturing Cien and then Cien being on the pirate ship and having a lesbian romance with someone. Aside from that, I'm not really sure, but I'm keen for swashbuckling, for adventure, for dragon eggs, and for queer characters like falling in love. It's going to be cozy and cute, I hope, like the first book was, so I'm looking forward to trying it out. I don't know when I'll get my hands on it. If I don't get it during November, I'll probably have it on some kind of wish list for December. And then since the end of the year in Australia is leading into summer and a lot of sunshine and beaches, I thought what a good time to read some romance. And conveniently, my library is like, these are releases that you have on hold that are coming available, and I keep kind of putting them off because I've got other priorities, namely the Stormlight Archive. But when it gets closer to the end of the year, hopefully I'll have read Rhythm of War. I don't know, my whole TBR feels like it's chaos. But anyway, I've got some Emily Henry that I want to read. One of them is You and Me on Vacation, and from the synopsis it seems like it follows Poppy and Alex, and I believe they are best friends. They might have had a miscommunication or a falling out or something, because usually they go on a vacation together as best friends every year. I think they've had a falling out and then they decide to go on their yearly holiday again, but something about their relationship is not quite the way it was before. So I think Poppy was surprised that Alex said yes, and both of them go on this trip and then figure things out. And I don't know if it's a second chance romance or if it's a best friends to lovers romance. Either way, I'm keen to try it out because Emily Henry has a pretty good rap, and I enjoyed Beach Read, so I'm keen to try her other work. Speaking of, the other book that I want to read next is also by Emily Henry, and that is Funny Story, and it is about Daphne and Peter, and they're engaged, but they're engaged only up until Peter realizes that he's actually in love with her best friend and not Daphne, our main character, so they end up breaking up. So now Daphne is stranded in this city. She doesn't have anywhere to live, and she doesn't have any friends and family around, but she does have her dream job. So she's like, I need a roommate, I need a roof over my head. So the natural roommate that she finds is named Miles, and he is actually Petra's ex. So Peter and Petra get together and Daphne's left behind, and then Petra and Miles used to date. So Miles and Daphne are left behind and their exes are now together. So Miles and Daphne are like, well, we both need to live somewhere, so they end up moving in together, and it's about their romance. And I think our main character, Daphne, is more like organized, potentially highly strung, doesn't share a lot in terms of emotional vulnerability. And then Miles is that kind of down-to-earth, I feel like, golden retriever character who might not take things too seriously. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to seeing their vibe together and whether it works for me. So those are two Emily Henry titles that thankfully my library had the audios of, and I have been putting off to read until it gets warmer in Australia. And then the next book I've mentioned a couple of times, but I haven't really committed to reading it because it's been a short non-fiction audiobook that I've gone, I'm sure I can read it later, and now later is approaching, like we're at the end of the year, and that is Cultish, The Language of Fanaticism. And this one I need to read some of my notes because I'm not going to capture it all in my head. It says that it analyzes the social science of cult influence, how cultish groups from Jonestown and Scientology to SoulCycle and social media gurus use language as the ultimate form of power. It says what makes cults so intriguing and frightening, what makes them powerful. So I'm keen to look at the scope of language and how it's used to influence, because obviously, like, I'm on social media 24/7 and a lot of other people are chronically online. So it's interesting to see how the language online changes our vernacular day to day, and then how in extremist groups it can influence you even further. Because as far as nonfiction goes, I think it's quite intriguing, and I've never read anything in that space before, so I'm keen to try it out. And then the last book on this to be read list comes out in the middle of when I'm filming vlogmas videos. Oh my goodness. Okay, it is Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson, which is coming out on the 6th of December. And it's basically about promises that were made across the rest of the series in the previous books, and now our characters have 10 days to stop the apocalypse. And I'm like, I am ultimately very stressed about all of the characters that I love because Brandon Sanderson pulls no punches and I am therefore terrified. And this is the 5th book in a long wind up to the end of like an era, and I'm terrified. Like, Stormlight is supposed to be a 10-book series and it's set in 2 separate parts, so 2 5-book story arcs. And because this is the 5th book and wrapping up the first arc, I'm like, what is going to go down in this apocalypse to have an explosive finish before we have to wait like 2 years or so until the next release? I'm terrified. But anyway, that is what I'm planning to read in the last couple of months of the year. Let me know if you've got ambitious plans. Oh, actually, I forgot one book, and that is The House Witch. Maybe books 2 and 3, so I forgot 2 books, because I was supposed to read those during October, but it didn't quite work out because I have been headfirst into my read of Oathbringer and fighting off a reading slump. So House Witch is another cozy fantasy that I would like to add to my to-be-read pile, and I will let you know if I get to it, because like a lot of the other things on my to-be-read list, it is also an audiobook, or it is also 2 audiobooks. So wish me luck, pray for me. I don't know how I'm gonna go, but that is all of my reading plans for November and December. I am getting pumped about the idea of vlogmas already, and it's not even properly November yet. So let me know if you have huge to-be-read plans. I would be interested to know. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching again, and I will talk to you in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.